Guys, our last stop in Switzerland, and we are at a panel manufacturer, Rengli, and behind me is the biggest dust collection system that I have ever seen. And it actually collects not only sawdust, but also gypsum dust, because they pre-manufacture and pre-cut everything that it takes to put together their wall, roof, and floor assemblies. So we're gonna go through a factory tour. We're gonna show you guys everything that's going on. And there's a really interesting part of this factory that hasn't normally been found in a building industry type factory. So let's go inside and we'll take a look. This is actually a platform system that is taken from the automotive industry. This white steel platform that you see here gets loaded with material. This blue cart swings out and they load it with forklifts. And whatever material gets put on here, it basically gets categorized. So they know that they're gonna have these panels on this platform, and then it goes up and basically into storage. But you're gonna see it's basically a highway system. So as material is needed for a CNC, it knows what platform it's on. It will call this platform over to the CNC and automatically feed it onto the CNC. So this is something that they took from the automotive industry and have put it into this panel manufacturing facility. So we're gonna walk back this way. And as we do, I want to call attention to two things. Number one, the branding on this company I love. The negative void in the branding is really on point, and I asked the question as to why it's there, and they talk about how it's about the space that they create, which is fantastic. Secondly, when they were building this building, you know, cedar shingle, that's an expensive facade, and on a commercial building, why would you do that? There's a great story where all of the employees came together and helped, donated some of their time to install it. And there's some funny stories around that. But why don't we go inside and we'll start looking at kind of how the material is processed throughout. So like I said, it starts on that platform back there, and then it makes its way in, and this door is gonna shut on us. Can I come in? Thank you. You have to think about what's in a panel, right? You have dimensional lumber and you have sheet goods. And then sheet goods, you know, include exterior sheathing as well as interior, such as gypsum. So this CNC right here, all of that material is automatically fed on that highway system and then brought into this table. And then what happens is they're gonna cut all of the paneling. So whether it is a gypsum board or even a wood panel, you have, which is essentially like a CLT panel, cross-laminated timber, and all of this might be used for the exterior or the interior, same thing with the gypsum. But they're gonna use these cranes, you're gonna see these cranes kind of everywhere with these suction cups, and that material is gonna be picked up and then loaded in here. And then again, you're seeing that it's back on one of the highway platforms, and this is gonna pull into there and then bring it to the future panels that we'll see later on in the process. But everything is being pre-cut. You have some openings in that gypsum, that might be for a piece of ductwork. If there's electrical that's planned, which it typically is when they're working with BIM, the outlet's already gonna be pre-cut, and then they're even gonna run that wire loom on the back side of that outlet, so that wall is ready to go. And this is really, again, why it's so important to be planning out far in advance to make sure that everything is figured out before it goes into the production. I also want to call attention, everything that they're using is glulam. And the reason they're using glulam is because they need this stuff to be really, really straight. Some of that stuff is 40, close to 50 feet long. So if this stuff isn't straight and it's running through the humdinger over here, you know, our robot's not going to be able to work with material that's not straight. So that's a big issue, or a big reason why they're using glulam. But I mean, let's just take a moment to appreciate how straight this stuff is, how clean it is. And a lot of this stuff comes from Germany, but it's really straight, really true, and it makes putting things together a lot nicer. We saw a similar thing at Bensonwood, where everything that they were working with from a panel perspective was in fact glulam as well. As this material comes in, this is a lot of like simple, probably studs. You know, they have their labeling system. These are probably just, you know, relatively simple, organized by job and dimension. But this machine here is really, really complex, I guess would be the right word, and can complete really complex tasks. So whether it's, you know, a simple notch like this, it's also prepping, you know, drill holes here. So you have a notch, this is probably gonna sit on something that, and it's already prepping for screws. I mean, you're seeing the stuff come in, it's prepping for, you know, maybe a potential electrical conduit. everything is being done through that machine, and it's coming out, and they'll organize it from there. Even there was, he put it back, but even having tenons cut, there's obviously going to be some other member that ties into there, and this might just simply be a locating point, which we'll see as the panels are coming together. Even more complicated details like this, you have some pieces put together, everything is notched and ready. And I also want to point out, you see those black straps right there. Those black straps are also part of the modeling process, where they know the weight of the material, they know how they want to pick it, and say if that was a big panel that had to be picked on an angle, they would prep for that, and they're notching those pieces to make sure that they can get that strap in there. LVL stock as well, you're going to have some of that for some of the structural components. We're going to kind of comb through here, carefully of course. And then this is where they start working on the floor systems. So you actually can see the crane, they're getting this system. And what that is basically some of those timbers or dimensional lumber is being put together, and then they get that panel on top. So it looks like they've glued and maybe screwed that panel together. And they also have these picking holes. So they drop that pick through. We're gonna take a moment, we'll watch this thing go up. But the nice thing is as when you pick it up, you're actually gonna see all these pins in the table. When they, for example, if this was, say, job number 15 and that's panel number 8, there you go. They're gonna basically hit, which panel it is, and those pins are gonna automatically move and lay out for the panel that they're putting together. So the manual is gonna be getting the material that's here, and you can see the gentleman here, looking at this stuff. This stuff's gonna get up on the table, and then it's gonna lay out based on the drawing he has, but it's also gonna lay out based on the pin location. So let's see, these pins are probably gonna move. Looks like they got a pretty big wall. But yeah, look at how cool this is. That's cool. So that's ready. They're gonna get some lumber put up there, and then they'll be able to put all of this stuff together, that wall together, and then like I said, you'll see that CLT panel, that thinner panel, go on top, and then he's got that brought all the way down. So that's a floor system for a project that they're working on. Now, if that was an insulated floor system, the cool thing is they would put together the wall panel here, and these tables would slide together, and they're called butterfly tables. So they would slide together, and that would pick that panel up, and then bring it back on this side, and then they would be able to insulate and seal that bottom of the floor. And you can see, again, another white cart on this material highway with CLT panel. So whatever they're working on with dimensional lumber over there, that's coming in from where they cut all that stuff, they also have panels coming in this direction. Everything gets labeled, there's stickers on everything, so they know exactly what that panel goes to, what job, and and how it gets fabricated. So we're gonna work through down here. As you look, you kind of see this dark tunnel. That's that big material tunnel. So all of these all these platforms can move. Look at this. So that had went through the CNC. Those are a bunch of small pieces stacked up, super neat. But those are all pieces that are gonna be tied to something on one of these jobs. But it's sitting on platform number 72, and when they're ready for that, they can call, hey, we need those panels for that job, and platform number 72 is going to move into the area that it needs. So we're clear. You can actually see some of the glue squirting out here, and they got these bolts here, which is what they were attaching that crane to, which makes it easy to not only lift in the factory here, but eventually when it gets on site, they have all the pick points. So that's another thing. You got to remember, these are big panels, they're heavy panels, and not only do they have to be able to move them on site, but they also have to be able to move them in the factory, but they also have to move them on site and have a safe way to do it, so you increase your efficiency. So we'll take a quick second here, look down this hallway. What is seemingly complex is actually relatively simple. It's just this, runway, a bunch of steel and a little bit of software as they described it, but this is where all of that platform comes in. I had made the reference earlier, it's very similar to like IKEA, and it is thinking about that efficiency and that organization of parts and pieces. And if you really, really stop and think about what a home is, or what a building is, you can really start to understand like the parts and pieces that go into it. If you think of them, you know, in a more simple term, for instance, panels and dimensional lumber, if you can break those down in pieces, you know, eventually they can go together like a puzzle with enough planning. So this is their wall section. So they have, I believe it's 8 tables, or one, two, three, yeah, 8 tables. And this is a similar detail where they're gonna work on not only framing the walls, but sheathing the walls. And it looks like this right here, they get some strapping. Not sure what it's for. Maybe it's the potential rain screen in the future. But there's nothing on the bottom. They get that sheathing on, tables come together, this gets flipped over, and you can see this gentleman here, he's putting wood fiber insulation on top with Rockwool mineral or stone wall insulation in the cavity. So that wall gets flipped over, they fill that cavity, and then and on this particular job, they have a you know, it looks like a 2.5-inch wood fiber insulation that gets stapled to it. Now you have that complete assembly ready to go over to what they call the slow line, where they're going to install the cladding or any membranes that they might need. And it's the slow line because it takes a little bit more detail, you know, in the sense of like you're putting big sheathing pieces, you're putting big wood fiber panels on it, and this is a little bit more, a little faster. And you can hear the guys with the nail guns and the staple guns, they're flying through this stuff. So just kind of enjoy what's going on. I want to make a, yeah, we'll get down here and we'll see. You can see they got their rulers out, making sure all the screws are, you know, spaced evenly, which is great. A lot of big panels, a lot of big timber. Look at this. All of these pieces, those came off that Hundinger, and everything is notched. You know, they got some sort of horizontal band, which I believe is what they're attaching that wood fiber to. So they have all the horizontal bands already notched and prepped. You know, the guys are just putting these pieces together. But I had said, you know, about the locating notch. Come here. Right here. This is your, essentially, if you figure this is your top plate, you have a small, about, you know, 1/8 inch, 3/16 notch, and this stud goes right into that location. So these studs have to go in the right location. And as this stuff comes together, they'll come in here and screw everything together to make sure it's in the right spot. Just keep an eye, make sure there's no crane around us. And again, you're gonna see strap. And not only are they installing the strap, but they have this notch here, so when they're done picking, they should be able to pull that strap out. Whether or not they reuse it, I'm not sure. I'm gonna guess no, because they would have to cut it. But I've been wrong before. So it looks like a big wall with a big window here, and then an even bigger window over on this side. But listen, so we'll get down to the jip right here. So you can see how fast it is from a production standpoint. So they're stapling all the gyps, something that we don't do in the US. I would like to bet that that's faster than screwing, even with an automatic feed. But you can see real quickly, this is an outlet box. So one of the outlet boxes is already pre-cut, and when this wall gets flipped over, or maybe even before, they might drop that box in, flip that over, and then that's exactly what they're doing here. So why don't we walk down, make sure that we're out of their way. But look at this. All the electrical boxes have been placed. So this, and likely before this wall got flipped over, this wall got flipped, and then these guys not only are putting insulation in, but they're running all the blue Smurf tubes so they can run the electrical to it in the future. I can't get over this tubing and the efficiency of it. And of course, they're getting all the insulation in the cavity. And as this works its way down, we'll get to that wood fiber down there. Yeah, I mean, I'm also enjoying this as we're talking, but everything is being put together with these massive screws. You know, from a structural standpoint, they want these really strong connections, and pairing that with notching everything, it really does make for a high quality product. We'll go down this way. If they had cladding being installed, such as siding, this is where they would be doing it. Again, they call it that slow line. They don't have any cladding going on in this moment, but you know, with that being said, with panelization, Most of that cladding can be installed because these are big, long panels, but you of course have a lot of fill-in, so that's going to be part of the design process. Oftentimes this is multifamily or commercial, so there's a lot of paneling detail with full rain screens. So you're going to see that those panels they're pre-cut and ready for install, but where the panels join together may have a panel that has to be installed in field. Similar to the gyp, they're also stapling all this wood fiber. So I'm not sure we'll see it, but these staples are quite large. They're stapling it looks like every 3 inches or so, and getting that entire piece of wood fiber insulation installed. Again, the straps, so these straps are on top of the wall. Those are going to be for picking not only here, but especially on site. So as this wall is completed, it's going to actually move out to this table here, and that table is going to roll down. You see all these tracks on the floor, and that panel is going to come this way, come here, go into this bay, and it's going to flip up. You can see how they're hanging some of the walls right here. And this wall is basically hung, and it's ready to go on a trailer. But while we're standing here, I mean, light switch, maybe I'm not really sure, to be honest. Maybe it's a fire alarm up there, a thermostat, but either way, the boxes are installed and ready. You see it in its formation now, where now it's set up in that vertical position. And then what happens is they get these transport platforms, different from the highway platforms. Transport platforms come in, they get dropped on the ground, and then all of the panels, you can actually see in the middle here, all the panels get stacked up. They get plastic down on the platform first. Then they get the spreaders, and then they'll stand the panels up, and they'll get the straps. And then they'll turn this plastic up, and they'll run the straps over it, and then they drape over the top of the straps with this plastic. And then they'll go around with a heat gun, and they'll get that all tightened up and waterproof, so this can sit outside and in preparation for bringing it to site and install. You know, these panels, you want to protect them until they install. There's some resiliency, but you want them to be protected in transport. Big question I've gotten before, and I asked today, what do you do with all this plastic? That's a lot of plastic, that's wasteful. Unfortunately for them, it is single use. However, they partnered with someone that actually can take that plastic, and they're bringing it back to their facility and grinding it up and using it as, and then creating new plastic out of it. So that is, a huge recycling point, because it is a byproduct of transport. With that being said, I also missed a point. In the dust collector, all of the wood fiber that they collect, 85% of it gets used to heat this building. And the extra 15% is excess. They don't need any more heat. They have plenty. They're creating plenty of energy because even their buildings are super efficient. They're also collecting all that gypsum in a separate dust collector. So it's run that, for example, that CNC has 2 dust collection systems. When they're cutting gypsum, they're going to turn on one, and when they're cutting wood, they're going to turn on the other. But that gypsum powder, same thing. All of that gets collected in the dust collector, and then it is recycled. So they have, a huge initiative to make sure that they're recycling all the byproduct of what's going on here. That's a quick tour in this facility. It is incredibly impressive. They've taken, all of these opportunities to streamline process. You can see that there still requires the craftsmanship of 20 or so carpenters that are on these lines getting this stuff put together, but the quality of product that they're putting out is leaps and bounds beyond some of the stuff that I've seen over my career, but even in just panelization in general. So it's really interesting to see how they do it here in Switzerland. Again, big thank you to Siga, and big thank you to this company for letting us take a tour. Appreciate you guys sticking around. This has been an incredible trip, and really, again, to be able to walk through how they do things in different countries such as Switzerland and understand the efficiencies that they're focused on and how they're achieving that and how they're achieving at a really high level gets me excited for what we have in store for the future at NS Builders. Thanks for tuning in, guys.